Hello, and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's regular meeting for Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. My name is Kim Clark Baskin, and I'm the Assistant City Clerk. With us today, we have our sign language interpreter, Heather Gray. The following is a list of legislation to be introduced by Pittsburgh City Council. Councilman Bobby Wilson presents Bill number 304. Resolution providing for the establishment of a lease agreement with the Allegheny County Conservation District for 6 city-owned parcels as the site of the demonstration project for cost-effective urban brownfields remediation. The study will be at no cost to the city. Bill number 305. Resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of City Planning to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnerships Program to provide funding for the master planning process of Fowler Park. The grant proposal includes an ask of $40,000 with a local match of up to $40,000 to come out of the 2021 City of Pittsburgh capital budget. Bill number 307, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh City Code, Title VI, Conduct, Article 5, Discrimination, Chapter 659, Unlawful Practices, Section 659.03, Unlawful Housing Practices, and Section 659.04, Unlawful Public Accommodation Practices, to prohibit housing and public accommodation discrimination based on perceived or actual citizenship or immigration status and perceived or actual preferred language. This piece of legislation is sponsored by Councilwoman Erica Strasburger. That concludes the reading of the legislation for introduction. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of City Council for Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. A meeting announcement. Council will continue to meet virtually on Tuesdays and Wednesdays until further notice. All meetings will be live streamed on the City Channel's YouTube channel. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Never heard this. Mr. Cobb.
Here.
Ms. Gross.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor.
Here.
Mr. Strasburger.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Kell-Smith, President.
Here.
8 members present.
So next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise where you are and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Okay, and now we'll move on to the proclamations. We have one to be read into the record by Councilwoman Strasburger. Good morning, Councilwoman.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Strasburger presents, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh encourages all agencies, institutions, and individuals, public and private, in the City of Pittsburgh to abide by the letter and spirit of the Fair Housing Law in the pursuit of expanding opportunities and improving the quality of life for all. And be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby proclaim April 2020 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Pittsburgh.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to approve in a second?
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. Councilman, do you have any conversation?
I'll just say that all this is doing is declaring that it's Fair Housing Month. April is always Fair Housing Month, and I want to thank my colleagues for co-sponsoring this with me. And there is, as you probably saw, companion legislation that is being introduced today as well to ensure that everyone has safe, secure, and fair housing, and that no one faces discrimination.
Thank you. And I just wanted to make sure that if you had something to say about the other legislations, and if we'll come back to that. And now we'll move on to our public comment. And I just want to say, for those speakers that have registered and are waiting for the queue to speak, please give your name and neighborhood for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. May we have the first speaker, please, and please state your name and neighborhood for the record.
My name is
Stephanie.
Madam President, you probably need to, yeah.
First speaker is Stephanie Rondon.
Yes, my name is Stephanie Rondon.
Good morning.
I'm here. I wanted to comment regarding an article I read about a proposed repurposing of the Brookline Community Park, Memorial Park rather, to
Yes.
turn into a field for sowing, for sustaining the community with food that way. And I wanted to speak to that and say that that space is a great open space for people to come and walk their dogs, and there's no, it's a multi-purpose thing, and it's just a free feeling there when you go there. And I think it's a great asset to the community to have that, to be a multi-purpose space that people come and play and just walk and relax without having to fulfill a certain role as like a baseball field or whatever. They can just use it for whatever and be free to enjoy some fresh air and just relax and free their minds, especially during this quarantine time. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Frank Rondon. Mr. Rondon, are you there?
All right. My name is Frank Rondon, and I am the pastor of the church that is at 1462 Brookline Boulevard. We service the community. We have a number of things going on there, like English classes, food bank. We are mostly a Hispanic church, but all kinds of people attend our church, including English-speaking people. And on a daily basis, I see a great number. We have made our parking lot available to the community. And so people walk through our parking lot to get to that section that is being considered to be repurposed. And they walk their dogs, and they throw the frisbee around, and they play soccer sometimes, or sometimes they play baseball. And it is that land, as it is fulfilling a great purpose to the community. Taking it away from the community by repurposing it would take away a piece of land that doesn't have, there is no other places where that function can be fulfilled for the community. Not only that, I also see the cops. The cops themselves come on a daily basis with their dogs, play with their dogs, the canine dogs, all the units that are trained. I think they also do a little training there with the dogs. So all that will go away if we repurpose that piece of land. And because of that, I would like to voice to you guys in this committee, do not do that. Do not repurpose the land. Leave it as it is. So if you have any further, if you'd like to talk to me or to many other members of the community that I'm sure I am voicing their opinion on behalf of them, you can feel free to reach out to me. This piece of land is our backyard, pretty much. It's right there. So that's why people go through our property to get to that piece of land and be able to walk their dogs and do all kinds of activities there. Just yesterday, there was a family of people playing there, doing things. They're members of the same family. So they should be together and close to each other because there is that land there. So if that land is not there anymore, what is the family going to do now? Going to stay locked down, in their houses and going out of their minds, because there is no piece of land to be out, so I just want you guys to consider this strongly. And I believe that the purpose that it serves right now is a higher purpose, where it's for the mental health of the community, the happiness of the.
Thank you. And then may we have the next speaker, please, Ashley Mariani. Ashley?
Hello. Hi,
Good
I'm
morning.
Ashley. Good morning. I'm a resident of Brookline, and I actually am in favor of repurposing the land for a few reasons. One, I think this crisis has really elevated the need for more food security and more of a local food supply chain. I also feel like there is a lot of a multi-purpose use that could be used for that property, and if we could encourage multiple uses and especially productive uses of that space. It was, to my understanding, former farmland, and to be able to bring that back and have access to local fruits and vegetables, I think aids the community in multiple ways, from health, stimulating the economy, and providing healthy activities for everyone in the community. So I would really love to see that space be just built upon and be an access point for local and fresh vegetables. I know there's a lot of momentum here in the city to support a project like that, and there's a lot of local ag groups, myself included, that would love to see the city of Pittsburgh dedicate some resources into beefing up the local food supply chain. And I just see it as a beautiful opportunity to just start growing some vegetables here and having the community involved in that.
That it? So we have no further registered speakers. And so we'll move on to the order of business of presentation of papers. Councilman Burgess, Chair of Urban Recreation. Councilman Burgess? Madam Clerk, do we have any papers from Councilman Burgess?
No, ma'am. He's coming back in. Looks like there he is.
Okay. Good morning, Councilman Burgess, Chair of Urban Recreation. Do you have any papers this morning?
He's connecting. He's having, let's see, his audio is trying to connect.
Okay.
There he is. Okay, he's on.
Good morning, Councilman Burgess, Chair of Urban Recreation. Do you have any papers this morning?
Nope, we lost him again.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, we know he does not have any papers. Thank you.
Right.
Councilman Coghill, Chair of Public Works.
No new papers, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Gross, Chair of Intergovernmental Affairs.
No new papers, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Kraus, Chair of Human Resources.
Good morning, Madam President. No new
Good morning.
papers.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Lavelle, Chair of Finance and Law. Councilman Lavelle.
No new papers, Madam President. I mean, Madam
Thank you,
President, you have papers. I apologize.
You do? Okay, thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk.
He doesn't have any papers. He doesn't have any new papers.
Oh,
No new papers. Okay, maybe you have final papers.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. So for people, well, I'll talk about that in a second. Councilman O'Connor, Chair of Public Safety Services.
No new papers, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Strasburger, Chair of Innovation, Performance, and Asset Management.
It's listed here. I'm sorry to get this out of order. It is listed here that I have a paper, but it's listed that Councilman Bobby Wilson is first. But I'm happy to offer my papers now.
Offer your papers now, because on my list, you're first.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Strasburger presents Bill number 307, ordinance amending and supplementing the Pittsburgh City Code Title 6, Conduct Article 5, discrimination, unlawful housing practices, unlawful public accommodation practices to prohibit housing and public accommodation discrimination based on perceived or actual citizenship or immigration status and perceived or actual preferred language.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson, Chair of Land Use and Economic Development.
Madam President, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Wilson presents Bill number 304, resolution providing for the establishment of a lease agreement with the Allegheny County Conservation District for 6 city-owned parcels as the site of a demonstration project for cost-effective urban brown spills remediation. The study will be of no cost to the city. Bill number 305, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of City Planning to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnership Program to provide funding for the master planning process of Fowler Park. The grant proposal includes an ask of up to $40,000 with a local match of up to $40,000 to come out of the 2021 City of Pittsburgh's capital budget. In the event the grant is awarded, this resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $80,000.
I do have a request to waive Rule 8 on 304.
We have a motion.
I just want to say the acting director is requesting this. This is actually a great project where the city is going to enter into, or could enter into, a lease agreement with the Allegheny County Conservation District. And this is actually to remediate the soil on 6 parcels that have lake contamination, and to get this ready for urban farming.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, the bill will appear on, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the bill will appear tomorrow on tomorrow's agenda, Standing Committee's meeting agenda with Councilman Lavelle chairing.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilman.
Hi, thank you. Before we go into final action, may I please join as a co-sponsor on Bill 307 along with Council members Strasburger, O'Connor, and Wilson?
So
Yes.
noted.
Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Now we have moved on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business before council? Hearing none, we'll move on to committees for final action. We have Councilman Lavelle, Committee on Finance and Law.
Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman Lavelle presents Bill number 301, report of the Committee on Finance and Law for April 22nd, 2020, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill number 274, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in the amount of $84,000 to Robert A. Creo for arbitration services rendered in connection with Act 111 interest arbitration. Bill number 275, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Curtin and Hefner in an amount not to exceed $16,282.32 for professional legal services and expert advice regarding source of income litigation. Bill number 276, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Gleeson and Associate PC in an amount not to exceed $5,335 for professional services in connection with a lawsuit filed in the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas. Bill number 277, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in the amount of $12,317.50 to Kittleston LLC for professional services in relation to lawsuits filed in the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas.
You've heard the reading and the title of the bills. Is there any discussion on the bills? Hearing none, the bills are now ready for final action. All those in favor of the passage will vote aye when the name is called. Those opposed will vote no. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Reverend Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Ms. Strasburger.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mrs. Cal Smith, President.
Aye.
Ayes 9, no 0.
The bills having received the legally required number of votes are finally passed. Councilman Anthony Coghill, Committee on Public Works.
Madam President.
Good morning, Councilman.
Good morning.
Councilman Coghill presents Bill number 302, Report of the Committee on Public Works for April 22nd, 2020, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill number 271, Resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure to apply for grant funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnerships Program to provide funding for the acquisition of a stretch of rail land located between 24th through 33rd Street in the Strip District from CSX Transportation through the rail banking process. In the event the grant is awarded, this resolution provides for an agreement and expenditures not to exceed $500,000 for this stated purpose. This grant will be used in conjunction with capital funds to execute contracts. In the event the city is awarded the grant, the total project cost is not to exceed $1 million. Bill number 272, resolution authorizing the filing of an application for federal assistance with the U.S. Department of Transportation for up to $25 million in FY 2020, better utilizing investment to leverage development discretionary grant program funds for critical infrastructure stabilization at locations throughout Mount Washington. The bill grant application includes a required local match of 20%, the source of which is to be identified in subsequent legislation. Bill number 286, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to enter on behalf of the city into an amendment to full requirement service agreement with Direct Energy Business, LLC, for the continued supply of electricity to the city's buildings and facilities in connection with the city's aggregate purchase of electricity with other members of the Western Pennsylvania Energy Consortium. Bill number 300, resolution further amending and supplementing resolution number 855, entitled Adopting and Approving the 2012 Capital Budget by transferring a total of $45,000 to the City Farms Capital Project.
Thank you. You have heard the reading of the title of the bills. Is there any discussion on the bills? No discussion on the bills? I just want to be clear. Is this the same? Did we read the bills for Councilwoman Gross?
No, President Smith, that is Bill 299, which was confusing last week. That's in my committee at the end of the agenda. And we'll talk to that one when we get there.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you, Councilwoman. So, okay, you've heard the reading of the title of the bills. Is there any discussion on the bills? Seeing no further discussion, the bills are now ready for final action. All in favor of the passage will vote aye when their name is called. Those opposed will vote no. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Reverend Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus. Mr. Lavelle.
I'm sorry, aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Ms. Strasburger.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mrs. Cal Smith, President.
Aye.
Ayes 9, no 0.
The bills having received the legally required number of votes are finally passed. We'll move on to Councilwoman Deb Gross, Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs.
Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Gross presents Bill number 303, Report of the Committee on Intergovernmental Affairs for April 22nd, 2020, with an affirmative recommendation. Bill number 273, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the city to enter into an agreement with the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority to facilitate certain repairs to the cartway of the 10th Street between Penn Avenue and Liberty Avenue. Bill number 299, resolution authorizing the mayor and director of the Department of Public Works to enter into a project corporation agreement or professional services agreement with Grounded Strategies for the purposes of implementing a City Farms pilot project in an amount not to exceed $45,000.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So on Bill 299, which we amended last week and got provisional vote under standing committee, if members need to check their email, if they didn't see it this morning, we got a opinion from the law department late last night at 11:44 p.m. I think. And so I'm going to motion to recommit Bill 299 today so that we can continue to kind of find a path. We have assurances from the administration that they are not interested in administrative roadblocks, that they are excited about the project, that they are looking for ways to kind of figure out what the steps are in order that we can work on these projects. While it's difficult during this time, they've even committed to trying to find ways that DPW may be able to take action themselves, which is welcome and really exciting. So we'll have time to kind of figure out and bring it back, and hopefully still find ways to move forward on the project. So motion to recommit Bill 299.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to speak to that, Madam President. I was most fearful of losing critical times because we were really committed to putting, vegetables in the ground and growing there. However, I wanted to inform you, I spoke with Ariam, the director of Grounded yesterday, and she assured me they're going to stay on full time. They are really committed to, vacant space, period, in the city of Pittsburgh. But they're really excited about this project. So Ariam has agreed to stay on, not being paid for it. They already have a tremendous amount of work involved in it already. So, so we're not going to lose any time, which is a good thing on that. I had a good conversation with Chief Gilman yesterday and with Councilwoman Strasburger, and I believe others are excited about it. And especially Director Gable, and having the Department of Public Works come in with Grounded and act as a partner in this. I think the biggest fear for me is the loss of momentum, okay, and the enthusiasm that we've generated with this particular space. So with that being said, I don't think we're going to lose time because Grounded's going to keep on a full-time basis with us so we can get it to that point. I'm expecting DPW to meet out there next week and see how we can partner with them and moving this along. And, I'm for putting it out for RFP, and Grounded is committed to staying engaged with me. So we're not going to lose any time. We're not going to lose any ground. I do fear momentum will be lost, but we will try to keep that alive and well as well. So, and that last thing I wanted to say was that actual site, and I've been talking to the other related agencies, meaning Grow Pittsburgh, the Food Policy Council, and they're all in support of it, and they're excited about it as well. So they actually, Dawn Plummer actually found out for me that she thinks this would be, at least the Brookline site, would be the first in the nation of its kind. So we have a chance to be pioneers in this. I look forward to working with the administration and council in general and moving this along, and we're excited about it. So we're going to keep the momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So I'm just going to add to that this is so important right now for the city. I don't think anybody has any patience for any kind of politics or anything happening that's going to delay something that's getting food to people. We keep seeing article after article about the dangerous place we're going with our food chain in the country, and how we've heard a lot of commentary yesterday about it. And I just want to say people are struggling. They don't care about our politics. They shouldn't care about our politics. They also shouldn't care about nonprofits and organizations and worry about sustaining those organizations. I think at this point, I have a lot of concerns about some of the organizations that we do use in the city. And so I'm going to actually look into doing some things to make sure that we're doing some kind of audit to make sure that when we're entering into agreements, that people have actually done what they say that they're doing and have completed the things that we partnered with them to do. And some other things I'm going to look into. Because I've always had some concerns with nonprofits in general, and there's a tremendous amount in the city of Pittsburgh. And I think at this point, our foundations are pulled and stretched thin. They're trying to fund and the groups and organizations that are doing things, and we want to make sure that we're doing the same thing with our tax dollars, that we're delivering services and what we say we're going to deliver for the people. So I think that we need to start looking at some of the organizations that we're partnering with. So I always do have concern when we don't do a bid. So I'm glad that you're recommitting this bill. But I do want to say that there's a lot of groups and a lot of organizations that worry about self-preservation more than they do about delivery of services. So I think as we move forward, I'm going to continue to look into, every time a group comes for funding, I'm going to look into that, because we've heard a lot of times people come and they lobby the city, they lobby city council, they lobby the mayor, and they ask for things that the community believes that they're doing for their best interest, for the community's best interest, only to find out it's that they were promised a contract, or they're getting some part of the agreement. And so it's those kinds of things, those pay-to-play things that that are concerning to me. So I want to make sure that we're not doing that, and and that's not continuing with anyone in the city of Pittsburgh. And I just think that there's a lot of us that are starting to say, hey, wait a minute, we need to make sure we're really scrutinizing who we're partnering with and what we're doing, and to make sure they're delivering what we promise, especially when tax dollars are involved. So with that said, I just want to make sure that we are getting these gardens up and running. The time has come and gone. There's a lot of groups that say that they do, that say that they should have, could have, would have, but there's no, they're not there. I mean, the amount of gardens in every district and the amount of farming that we've been asking for and saying that we need, we're not seeing. So we want to make sure that whatever we do, at the end result is those farms are there and people are being fed, so that we never have people turned away from a food distribution, so that we never have people hungry in our communities. I mean, it makes me sick that this is America, the city of Pittsburgh, who, we take care of our people. And so when you see somebody getting turned away or somebody hurting, it's time for politics and partnerships and everything else to stop, and for us to really realize, what do we need to do to make things happen? And I think this is one of those things that can make it happen. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you on getting these things done. So thank you, Councilman Gross and Councilman Coghill, for moving this forward and recommitting it so we can get it right.
Madam President,
we need the vote on the recommittal, and
May I
then
have
we voted on my bills.
May I have
Councilman
discussion?
Kraus.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
briefly, there's been a reference to an opinion that came through the law department, which was requested by the sponsors, which we greatly appreciate. And just for the edification of people that are viewing, that the opinion came back, which we somewhat suspected it would, that we are bound not by politics, but by policy and law, that when we award contracts, that they go out in a competitive process, and so that it's fair and equal, and that anyone that might be interested in participating in that contract has an equal and equitable opportunity to do so. And so that was the substance of the opinion that was presented to council. And I just want the public to understand that the discussion now is not about our consideration or our commitment to urban farming, which is as strong as it has ever been. It's really just the concept of having to award a bid through a competitive process, which of course we're bound to do so by law. So thank you for taking my comments.
Yeah, thank you for making that clear. And now we're ready for a vote on the recommittal. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the bills will now appear on tomorrow's standing committee agenda.
The bill for 273, are we moving forward with the bill for 273?
Madam President appears to be frozen, but yes, we have not taken the vote on the bills in the rest of the bills in the committee, so we need to do that.
Bill number
Maybe we'll grab
Okay, am I back on?
Okay, you're back now. Okay.
Okay, thank you. If that happens again, Councilman Burgess, please take it.
Right.
Okay, where are we now? Because I missed some of the conversation.
We still have another bill. We still have Bill 273 that needs to have a
vote. I'm going to roll call vote.
Yeah.
Reverend Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Coghill.
Aye.
Ms. Gross.
Aye.
Mr. Kraus.
Aye.
Mr. Lavelle.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Carter.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mrs. Kelsman, President.
Aye.
Ayes 9, no 0.
So now that was for the recommittal?
No, that was for Bill 273. There was two bills in that committee.
Okay, I apologize. I lost my phone and my computer at the same time. The bills now having received the legally required number of votes are finally passed. And now that we move on to,
Motions and resolutions.
did we do Councilman Coghill? We did Councilman Coghill,
Yeah.
Councilman Gross.
Motions and
Sorry, I'm
resolutions.
starting all over again. And now we move on to motions and resolutions. We have a meeting announcement. To register to speak at council's Tuesdays and Wednesday meetings. Please first call the city clerk's office by 9 a.m. at 412-255-2138. You will then be given the telephone number and access code to join the hearing for public comment. You may also submit comments to the city clerk's office via their email at cityclerksoffice@pittsburghpa.gov by 10:30 a.m. on the day of the hearing. And now, do we have anything from members?
Madam President?
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak very briefly about the legislation that I introduced today, along with Councilman O'Connor and Councilman Wilson and Councilman Kraus. Thank you for joining me in sponsoring that.
Yeah, thank you.
Just very briefly, as you all know, well, I also want to thank a couple other people, the mayor and the mayor's staff who have worked on this, especially from the Welcoming Pittsburgh Initiative, Hirsch Merenstein, Ernest Rajacone, and Megan Stanley from the Commission on Human Relations and the whole commission for really a collaborative effort, and then of course my staff as well. This legislation would amend the conduct portion of Pittsburgh City Code. So it would add immigrant status or perceived immigrant status and language spoken or perceived language spoken to a list of protected classes that are protected from discrimination based or discriminations in housing or public accommodations. So, you know, we've amended the law many times to add more protected classes, and this would just be 2 more. This has been in the works for more than a year. It's not a direct response to COVID-19, but it was actually something that I was planning on just sort of pushing back until things got a little bit more normal, but it was brought to my attention just how critical it is right now with people facing discrimination, both when it comes to getting services. You know, you look, if you're, especially those in the Asian Pacific Islander community are facing discrimination day after day in pretty significant ways right now. And then others who are in the immigrant and refugee communities who are experiencing increased housing discrimination because they're not necessarily covered by, you know, moratoria on evictions. So it was really timely, I thought, to do this right now. It's also Fair Housing Month, and just wanted to explain that a little bit, and happy to answer any other questions individually that any other council members have, but do appreciate your support and the 3 council members who have joined me.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Madam President, I was having trouble getting on. I kept getting kicked off myself this morning, so I got on 2 or 3 times. The first time I couldn't get on with audio, then I couldn't get on with video, and I kept getting kicked off. But anyway, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor to Councilwoman Strasburger's legislation, first of all. Second of all, unfortunately, housing discrimination is a major problem in Pittsburgh, you know, because Pittsburgh is so segregated by design, and it is still being discrimination in terms of mortgages and in terms of rental and in terms of house buying still occurs. It's very difficult for African Americans to get mortgages. It's very difficult for them to get leases. It is not by accident that places like the Southside Flats and other places are completely segregated. It's not by accident. It's actually been consistent in this city for many, many years. Source of income, of course, is one of the ways they use to discriminate. They don't accept vouchers. And so I agree with this. I think all forms of demonstration, all forms of segregation that Pittsburgh purposely, constantly participates in is an abomination. We need to do more affordable housing, but we also need to start thinking about putting affordable housing into upperly mobile neighborhoods. I think that's also an idea whose time has come. We think of affordable housing just in low-income communities, but we should also use public land and perhaps buy with a partner when properties become available in affluent neighborhoods, because the way that we get our communities the way it should be is not only to rebuild the low and moderate income communities, it's also giving those low and moderate income residents the opportunity to live in affluent communities. And unfortunately, that's particularly harsh on African Americans, because if you're not an African American, you are most likely, if you're low and moderate income, to live in a middle class or upper middle class community, despite your income. It's typically only for African Americans that are forced to live in substandard communities in Pittsburgh, and that's what the numbers tell us. And so I agree with your legislation. I am willing to co-sponsor it. I have just for a while not talked as much about the structural racism that our city is embracing and perpetuates, but I think it's time to go back to have that conversation, because now my fear is when the resources now come to begin to open our city and rebuild them after COVID-19, those resources will be steered disproportionately to communities of middle class and upper middle class neighborhoods. The testing will be done primarily in upper middle class and middle class neighborhoods, and that the needs and the needs of those communities, which I in part represent, will be overlooked. And as the numbers in many cities are showing us, these are the people who are disproportionately affected by COVID, right? Poor and Black people across the country have disproportionately been the victims of the COVID-19 pandemic. And yet, if you start to look at where the dollars have been spent, they have not went to those communities. They have not went to organizations of color. They have been given to mostly other communities and other organizations. And so we're going to have to figure out how to do this in an equitable manner. And I think starting next week, we'll begin to have that conversation.
Thank you. Councilman Cooper, I understand you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to see if possibly we could get a briefing on the ruling from the PUC that we got from Chief Gilman yesterday. Now, I don't know if that's going to come up on our weekly call or not, but just a heads up. I think that's an important ruling where just from reading it, we could be losing, $10 to $20 million. So I think that's a interesting conversation to have. So that's all. So I don't know if you want me to send an email or maybe that's going to be on our Thursday chat. I'm not sure.
I think that it would be great to make sure we send an email, give them some information ahead of time that we're looking for, some additional details. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it up. Any other discussion?
Yes, Madam President, I have to push back on this absolutely nonsensical, unfounded propaganda that the Southside Flats is a segregated community. Those are very dangerous statements by someone in a position of power and authority, and I absolutely refute that statement.
So what is the racial makeup of the Southside Flats, Mr. Councilman?
Thank you. We're not having an interrogatory.
I'm not saying it's segregated because of. I'm just talking about the numbers. When you get to a community that's 93, 94, 95% of one view, I would say that Homewood is a segregated community. So it is not personal, it is the numbers. When you get to communities in Pittsburgh, such as Southside Flats, probably, I would guess Squirrel Hill, parts of Point Breeze, Shady Side, those communities are in the 90s. Swiss Elm Park. I mean, we can go through the city. Our city is segregated. If you go into Homewood, you're going to see a community that's probably 89, 90% African American. All of those communities are segregated. They're not to say that those occurred probably in the 30s because of redlining. That is how it occurred. But we are still living with the reality. And to deny the reality of segregation in Pittsburgh shows a sort of bias and privilege that I've been fighting against my whole time on council. And so now you get to see why I have to fight so hard, because this privilege wants to even deny the statistics of the segregation of our city.
I've made my statement, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion from other members? Seeing none, can we please have a motion to excuse any absent members, approve the minutes, and adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.